Let's go over all the games happened on Sunday night. The first game is the Lakers beating the San Antonio Spurs 114-106. For the Spurs, Keldon Johnson minutes is super high for him, and he shot the ball pretty well, and he took 18 shots. He's a borderline, top. We're gonna check his rankings. In the last 2 weeks, he's 108th ranked player, and for the season, he's 154th. I think he's gonna be around that 100 spot. He doesn't really get that many, defensive stats. He is a good, he's gonna give you 15, 16 points and maybe 1.8 threes, 1.5 to 1.8 threes with decent rebounding. So he's not a must roster, but I think he needs to be rostered. And if you want to say, oh hi, you take two top 100 players for a top 70, 80 guy. I think that's reasonable. Doug McDermott played 29 minutes. Let's leave him out there. And Drew Eubanks, I think he's a drop. Jacob Poeltl is going to be back at some point, maybe this week. And the Spurs, they only have 2 games this week. And Thaddeus Young has been playing much better than Drew Eubanks. He's the guy that we want to roster until Poeltl comes back. And then we will see what happens when Poeltl comes back. Is Thaddeus Young going to get any minutes? Maybe he still get 25 minutes. If he just played 25 minutes, I think he should be rostered. Had 9 rebounds here. He's been pretty bad free throw wise, but everything else is good. Derek White is huge buy low, 4 for 10, and only played 29 minutes. Minutes is not high because he's been struggling. He's a team worst, minus 22. Throw him a top 80 or 90. Throw him a top 90 or 100 player. Keldon Johnson plus maybe a Kemba Walker for Derek White. That's something that I could think about. Derek White has top 50 upside, maybe even 40. If the blocks are coming in. Devontae Murray continues to be a beast. At this point, if you punting threes, even in the last 2 weeks he's making 1.4 threes. His free throw is a little bit, he shot 70%, and historically he's not a great free throw shooter, and he doesn't make that many threes. If you had to talk about his weaknesses, he's averaging 7.3 assists in the last 2 weeks and only 2.3 turnovers. So he's very, very, fairly, efficient and doesn't turn the ball over that much. So he's been really good. And if your team is punting, threes especially, I would try to trade him. Trade for him. I'm just trying to think. Like maybe if it's even worth, trade Zach Levine for Devontae Murray. They're quite different. But Devontae Murray has been giving the defensive stats, the rebound, the assists, almost doubles what Zach Levine brings to the table. So that's some trade we could think about. And Devin Vassell playing 29 minutes. I don't think he's a must roster. We could stream him. He give you good threes and good defensive stats. For the LA Lakers, Taylor Horton-Tucker is back. If he's out there on the waiver wire, which a lot of leagues are right now, because he just came back, I think it's worth picking up. We know if LeBron comes back, right? How many minutes? But he was a plus 14, 27 minutes. Team best. Although AD put up the best counting stats, Taylor Horton-Tucker did play really well this game. So I would absolutely pick him up, and with his defensive upside, very, very juicy. Carmelo Anthony, not a must roster. We could stream him or sell high. He only took 7 shots this game, but still had 15 points and 5 rebounds. But he's not a must roster. We could stream him for points and threes. Anthony Davis, 34 points, 15 rebounds. Yeah, that's great. AD in the last 2 weeks, despite this game, he is just a 10th ranked player. Let me see for the whole season. He's probably climbing. Yeah, for the whole season, he's a 9th ranked player. If you're punting threes, 0.4 threes. If you got Anthony Davis, Devontae Murray, the first, as your top 2 best players, that's not a bad combination. You would try to get other top guys that don't make any threes, like Bam Adebayo, is another guy that don't really make up, or Jokic even. If somehow you can do a 3-for-1, if you already got Jokic, do a 2-for-1 for AD, your team will be pretty unstoppable, I think. Yeah, if those two guys stay healthy, obviously. Russell Westbrook had 7 turnovers, just cannot stop turning the ball, cannot help himself. 5 for 11 is fine. Everything else looks fine this game. 11 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. But if you got Russell Westbrook, it's hard to win turnovers. He could single-handedly lose you. If he's got 4 games, he might just turn the ball over 25 times, right? Some teams for the whole week in 9 category leagues, they have 60, 70 turnover. So Russell Westbrook basically have 40% of the turnovers. That's hard to come back. The next game is Milwaukee Bucks losing to the Atlanta Hawks. Wow, this was a bad loss. A good win for Milwaukee, but good win for Atlanta Hawks. Revenge from last year's conference finals. For the Bucks, Pat Connaughton could be a 3-point streamer. That's about it. We don't know when Lopez is. There has been no news about Brook Lopez. So we don't know when he's coming back. So Bobby Portis, in the meanwhile, is a must roster. And if he pops off a sell high, play 31. I mean, look at the minutes. 30 minutes, he's a must roster. And look to sell him, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 20, struggle from the field, 9 for 21. Who is stopping him from the Capella? John Collins? 7 for 12 on the free throw is also bad. Not the best game from Giannis. And Grayson Allen continued his incredible shooting. Grayson Allen has been incredible. He's probably the best 3-point and point streamer out there so far, like better than Seth Curry, better than Duncan Robinson. Last 2 weeks, he played 30 minutes, 18 points, and 4.3 threes. That's Buddy Hield like. And he gets more defensive stat than Buddy Hield. 1 steal and 0.6 blocks. A great efficiency from the free throw line. For the first ranked player for the whole season, Chris Middleton is out. Once Chris Middleton comes back, once Brook Lopez comes back, I don't think Grayson Allen is going to play 31 minutes tonight. So he's a sell high. But if he can sustain 31, who knows? He could be a top 70 player. But still way lower than where he's currently ranked. Like he could be a mini Buddy Hield. Making 3.5 threes, that could be top 70, because he gets a bit more defensive stats. If you cannot sell him for top, nobody wants to give you a fine. Just hold it, The three is he's making a lot of threes, and given that he's playing so well, the coach has got to find him some minutes. 25 minutes a night at least. Jrue Holiday played well, 8 assists, 19 points, 2 steals and a block. Continues to be a buy low, Although the past couple games has been okay, but he hasn't really had that one game you go like, wow, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 10 assists, and 20 points, 20-point games. For the Atlanta Hawks, the news came out that DeAndre Hunter is going to be out for 8 weeks. So Bogdanovic, if he's out there on the waiver wire, Bogdanovic is a must. Hopefully that will get things started. Bogdanovic still struggling. Last year he won a lot of leagues for a lot of people. I remember averaging over 20 points, 4 threes, shooting 50%. He hasn't been doing that. Only took 7 shots as well. So with DeAndre Hunter out, I think we could look to, we could grab Kevin Huerter because the minutes is high, but the upside is we know our old friend Kevin Huerter for a long time. Given 30 minutes, he'll put up okay counting stats, but the efficiency is pretty bad. So if you want to grab him, that's fine. And Cam Reddish, even with DeAndre Hunter out, he only got 60 minutes, so we should not grab him at least now. And Gallo got a lot of that minutes, 25 minutes. And Gallo is a guy that we could potentially look to stream for points, not even points, mainly for threes and free throws, which is hard. Free throws is hard to get on the waiver wire. John Collins, 19 points, 6 rebounds. An okay game from John Collins, to be honest. But his ranking-wise is still fine because efficiency is great. But the counting stats he gives so little. Clint Capella, 13 finally. consistently getting 13 plus rebounds and 2 steals, no blocks, it's okay. And Trae Young, yep. Trae Young played super well. 62% from the field, made 8 threes. Remember, he's not a big 3-point, like last year maybe he averaged 2.5 threes, 2 threes. So he's not a big, he doesn't take that many threes. You would think he would take a lot of threes. In the past 2 weeks, he's ranked pretty high, 14th ranked player. But in 9 category leagues, if you're not punting anything, he's just a top 50. But he got a lot better if you're punting turnovers, and even better if you're punting field goal, right? That's when he moves into top 10. Maybe a sell high, Yeah, I can't get any, like if you're in 9 category leagues, try to trade him for a top 15 player. Let's go to the next game. The Golden State, this Warriors lost to Charlotte Hornets. That's interesting, but they did play. It was at Hornets, so finally they run to an end. I believe they won. How many games did? The Warriors, they were on an 8-game winning streak, maybe 9-game winning streak, before they lost this one. Draymond, 32 minutes. This game is fine, like 5 for 7, 1 3 even, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks. But just want to see Draymond do a little bit more on the defensive end. For the season, he's a 120th ranked player, and because he doesn't really, Draymond has been pretty poor. But if he punting points and threes, I think he's top 10. He could move into that top 10 if he punting points and threes. Last 2 weeks, he averaged 7.1 points and 0.3 threes. So, 7.6 rebound is also a bit low. 7.1 assists was a bit low. 1.3 steals sounds about right. He only played 27 minutes as well. So I think at some point, Draymond Green is going to have, it's going to break out a little bit. So far it hasn't been the case. Andrew Wiggins remains to be a sell high. The last week or so, he's been playing super well. 28 points. Let's not. Don't think this is gonna happen all that often. Kevon Looney, he played huge minutes last time around, but let's just leave him on the waiver wire. Jordan Poole, just the 28 minutes. Iggy played 24. Jordan Poole was on a hot. For 2-3 games. He was averaging, he was actually the 32nd ranked player in the last 2 weeks, averaging 20 points. That's a bit high. Maybe 17, 18 is realistic, but it's not that far off. But the big thing is he's averaged 1.7 steals in the last 2 weeks, and for the season, he's the 78th ranked player, averaging 1.5 steals. Like if he can average 1.5 steals, that's pretty huge. He go from just the 2 category points and threes to 3. Right, and his free throw is also great. So if you tell me he can average 1.5 threes, and I could argue that he's only making 2.5 threes, so that could even go up. And if he can sustain the 1.5 steals, he could be a top 70 guy. And I think the return of the Clay is maybe impact his shot attempts a little bit, but I think majority of his value we should focus on the steals is the one. Steph Curry did not have the best game, but still put up a great line. 24 points, 10 assists. Even when Curry's not going, he's dishing out assists. 6 rebounds, 3 steals, and block. He is the number 1 guy for the whole season and for the last 2 weeks. A monster start. But I still think Jokic should be better than Curry from this point forward. For the Hornets, Gordon Hayward, again, look at this line. He had a great game last game. His rankings are going to be good in category leagues because he doesn't turn the ball over. He's fairly efficient. I'll look to trade him for any top 50. That's his ceiling, I think, top 50. Miles Bridges played 41 minutes. He's young. He should be fine. 41 minutes. That's how much the coach is loving him. Give him 41 minutes. He's the number 1 option on this team so far. And he's a guy fairly efficient, doesn't turn the ball over that much, and he gets defensive stats. So everything, all those means Miles Bridges is a good fantasy player, a 9 category guy, and for the season he's a 16th ranked. Sure, like I could totally see him finishing up top 30, but if somebody want to give you top 15, I would take it. I don't think I would think too much. I would take it, absolutely take it. And at this point, right, just a couple weeks ago, hey, trade Miles Bridges for Jason Tatum, that would be crazy. Now it's not too great. I still think Jason Tatum is better, but it's minimal. The difference will be, I think it's minimal. Mason Plumlee, not a must roster. If you need some big man stats, if you need some rebound, some assists coming out from your center, you could still roster him. But his flaws are very obvious. No points, no threes, bad free throw. Terry Rozier, it's a sell high. If you can. I think he's probably just a top 80, 90 guy. Won't be a top 50. So if you had, 139th ranked player for the whole season, let's see, in the last 2 weeks, 135th ranked. Any top 50 or 60 player, I would do that trade. He won't be the same guy he was last year. And with the emergence of LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, he's like maybe the third option. That's why I also trade Gordon Hayward. LaMelo Ball, don't know what to say. It's just too good. 4 threes, 21 points. Turnovers isn't a concern, and efficiency sometimes is a concern, but he does everything. 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. And Cody Martin coming off the bench. Cody Martin is a guy that we could always stream for some rebound and some steals. He did exactly that. And he's fairly efficient, doesn't turn the ball over that much. Let's go to the next game. Phoenix Suns beating the Rockets. No surprise there. Mikal Bridges, 14-6. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know he would be a top 50 guy. The steals are not coming. Pretty disappointing. Again, last season he was pretty disappointing as well. But in the last 2 weeks, as bad as in the last 2 weeks, he averaged 0.7 steals and 0.7 blocks. In 9 category leagues, he's still the 64th ranked player because last 2 weeks he turned the ball over 0.3 times, and he shot 56% from the field and 100% from the free throw line on 0.9 attempts per game. So he is the definition of he doesn't hurt you anywhere. But other than the points, 14 points, everything else is 1.6 threes is okay. 0.7 blocks is slightly above average, but everything else is so little. Almost no counting stats. So if your team needs those, if you're pounding one of those efficiency categories, I don't know if it makes much sense to have Mikal Bridges, right? Then you would really look to trade him. But if there's a team that is not pounding anything, or there's a team that pride themselves to be good efficiency wise, then you could make that trade. Because if you're pounding turnovers, his value drop, who knows, like 50 spots, 40, 50 spots. So yeah, I look to trade him if I'm not pounding turnovers. Jay Crowder, 23 minutes, 24 minutes, a steal and 2 blocks. An okay guy, we could always stream this guy. I think we know this over the years. JaVale McGee, huge game. He's I don't want to say must roster, but I don't think there's many good centers out there in 12-team leagues out there on the waiver wire. So, and he was a plus 30. So let's grab him until DeAndre Ayton comes back. This is 14 points, a steal and 3 blocks. This is prime JaVale and have 5 personal fouls. So this is good stuff from him. Devin Booker, another 6 assist game. So that's not bad for Devin Booker. Last 2 weeks, he's ranked pretty good. 42nd ranked player in the last 2 weeks. Can't complain too much. And the dude is averaging 5.3 threes and 1.3 steals even. So those are looking pretty good. And Chris Paul, 7 steals. Man, Chris Paul, 5th ranked player in the last 2 weeks. And Chris Paul is the 6th ranked player for the whole season. But he's a 2 category guy. 10.4 assists. I don't think that's sustainable. Mainly, I think 9 assists, and he's averaging 2.8 steals. I think for the rest of it, 1.7 is more realistic. So to me, he's a top 20 guy, top 20, top 25. But I would rather much have someone young that's inside the top 20. Like I'd much rather have Dejounte Murray than Chris Paul. Yeah, I'm looking to trade him. And also, this game is against the Rockets. You know, Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. Right? And Cameron Payne played 18 minutes. Looks like he won't be getting a lot of minutes as long as Chris Paul is healthy. So, but in just 18 minutes, 4 assists and steal is okay, to be honest. For the Rockets, it's just a shit show. Kevin Porter Jr. had 6 turnovers, while Jalen Green had 4. So that's probably where Chris Paul get a lot of his steals from. Jalen Green was a minus 32. My God. Yeah, Coach Silas said they want to change the lineup after this game. I know Şengün is getting a lot of hype. Maybe he's not talking about Şengün because look at the guards play, right? Silas doesn't play fantasy, so he's not talking about that. It's mainly the guards play. So if I have to guess, I have to bet my money, I think Jalen Green is coming off the bench. Because when you have Jalen Green and Kevin Porter, it's also impacting Christian Wood. Nobody's feeding him the ball. They need kind of like a true point guard. You know, Kevin Porter Jr. is trying to be that guy, but he's not very good at it. So, and they don't really have any true point guard. Like if John Wall is playing, right, Christian Wood stats will be much better, I feel like. Now in this offense, Christian Wood is not. It's very hard for him to get his. You know, 17 points and 8 rebounds is very disappointing for Christian Wood this season. 2 for 4 from the free throw line. You know, we really haven't talked about Wood that much. For the whole season, he's a 153rd ranked player, averaging just 16.8 points and 11.5 rebound is good. Don't get me wrong, but not a lot of blocks, 0.8 blocks, and 45% from the field. You might ask why? Because the guards play of the Rockets, you know. Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. both shoot first guard, and you know they're kind of forcing Kevin Porter Jr. to be that point guard, and he's turning the ball over at a historical rate. Like if you look at the past 5 seasons, you know guys that average in top 5 in turnovers, he's the worst, by far the worst player. Everybody else is all-star, superstar, NBA all-star, and Kevin Porter Jr. is averaging over 5 turnovers probably. But counting stat-wise, Kevin Porter Jr. is fine. You know, 12 points, 2 threes, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. We don't drop him. And if your team is not pounding efficiency, like try to trade Kevin Porter Jr. for Mikal Bridges. You know, those trades might just make both teams better. And try to do one of them, but Mikal Bridges owners might want, you know, something more in return. But yeah. Counting stat-wise is fine. I don't think we want to drop him in fantasy, at least. Jalen Green, 12 points. I mean, Jalen Green is pretty... I mean, at least Kevin Porter Jr. is giving us the assist and some defensive stats. Jalen Green is not giving us that many defensive stats. And efficiency is horrible, also turning the ball over a lot. If you want to hold... Like, if Jalen Green is coming off the bench, playing 25 minutes, then he's a drop, right? I think the best case scenario, he's a top 70 guy. Best case scenario, if his shots start falling. Daniel Theis played 18 minutes. Bad. And Şengün 21 minutes. This is what he can do: 2 blocks, 10 rebounds, good efficiency, 1 block and 2 turnovers. So Şengün, if you want to pick him up, just in some case Silas decided to start him. You know, that would help his value a lot, playing 25 plus minutes. And Jae'Sean Tate is not a must roster, I think. You know, just too inconsistent. Well, everybody played bad on this Rockets team. They do need a change. They do need a change. The next game, Brooklyn Nets beat Oklahoma City. This game was somewhat close till the end. That's why minutes pretty high across the board for KD and Harden. KD 33 points. Finally had a defensive stat, 1 steal. Went to the free throw line, you know, super good. The only thing with KD is he's not getting that, defensive stats at all. He is in the last 2 weeks, for the whole season, 4th ranked player. In the last 2 weeks, 8th ranked player. So KD just, he's leading the league in scoring. So he might just do that and give you decent rebound and 5-6 assists. But the main issue is the defensive stats. Last 2 weeks average is just a 0.3 steals and 0.3 blocks. But efficiency is huge. Free throw line efficiency is also huge. As long as he's healthy, I don't think we can complain too much, even though the defensive stats are pretty low. Bruce Brown, 28 minutes, had a steal and 7 rebounds. I think he's not a must roster, but I think he's better than Jason Tate. So if you want rebounds and some defensive stats, you could roster him. But very, minimum value. But they got a back-to-back. Bruce Brown is a guy you could absolutely stream. Blake Griffin, Joe Harris, not really. Patty Mills went off, but they got a back-to-back. You could stream Patty Mills for 3. It could be a 3-point streamer. That's it. James Harden struggled shooting the ball. 5 for 13, 1 for 8 on the 3. But overall, we know Harden so far. He hasn't really been that guy. But he's still in 9 category leagues. He's still inside that top 15. If you're counting turnovers, he's like top 6, top 7 probably. So even though he hasn't been himself, but it's not like Jason Tatum bad or it's like Damian Lillard bad. For OKC, everybody played horrible other than Lou Dort, had 20 points and 3 threes. He's a 3-point and points streamer, even though he's a good defender in real life. Darius Bazley, horrible, minus 21, 2 for 13. Let's not roster him, like Kyle Kuzma is way better than Darius Bazley in fantasy. They really just give you 2 categories, rebounds and points, a little bit points, and some threes. But yeah, he has not been good. I think at some point they gotta realize we've been giving Darius Bazley minutes for 2 years. Maybe try something else. Maybe have Prokishevsky start or give him more minutes. Right? He's clearly not the guy. At least this season. So why not give other guys some opportunities? Jeremy Robinson Earl. He got the start again, but the minutes is not like if he gets 30 minutes, 20 to 30, then we could consider grabbing him. 8 rebounds is nice, but I don't think he blocks that many shots, so the upside is pretty low. Josh Giddey struggled again, just the 25 minutes. I think he should be fine. Don't drop him. He's a guy that his game is really good fantasy-wise. Give you rebound, assists, steals, and blocks. So and threes. He did make 2 threes. So let's hold on. Let's hold on to him and just be patient with it. Shea played 30 minutes, had an okay game. Shea has also, for a guy that's getting drafted and end of 2nd or early 3rd, he hasn't really been putting up, crazy stats. But I will look to buy low from him. 23 points is nice. 3 threes and efficiency is decent. But he's also a little bit underwhelming, but not too crazy, If you ask me, do you want Miles Bridges and Shea? I still probably prefer Shea a little bit, even though it's very close. But just because Shea is by far the number 1 guy on this team. And Miles Bridges sometimes have to share food with others. Let's go to the next game. The Portland Trailblazers losing to Denver Nuggets. Yeah. Man, they need to trade Damian Lillard. They're not... This Blazers team, they're not going anywhere this season. They're the 9th, 6 and 8. I mean... The Thunder actually are 5 and 7. So I think the Blazers, they're not going anywhere. They should just trade, blow it up, trade CJ, trade Robert Covington, trade Damian Lillard, right? Trade all those guys. Norman Powell was a minus 29 in 28 minutes, 13 points. Again, Norman Powell, he is a must roster, but not that exciting. He is, after this game, his rankings fallen off quite a bit. 79th ranked player. 17 points. I'm not sure he could average 17, but 15, 16, it's close. Hit some threes. Again, shooting 50% from the field this year. So if that falls off, he's going to be outside of 100. If you can trade him after a huge game, like he goes off with 28 points, 7 threes, that's when you go trade him. Do a 2-for-1 to get any consistent top 40 or 50 player. Robert Covington, he is close to a drop. But because the man's upside he has crazy upside, like top 10 upside. But is it going to happen this year? Last year, what it took Jusuf Nurkic injury to get Robert Covington going. This year, I don't know, maybe for a trade, he get traded to a contender, maybe he gets traded to the Lakers. I don't know. So far, he's close to droppable. I think really he's really close to droppable. So if he has a great game, I look to trade him, because he's got that good name in fantasy, especially in category leagues. I look to trade him. Jusuf Nurkic was bad. Nobody on this Portland team is good fantasy-wise, to be honest. Chauncey Billups. The minutes also weird with Nurkic. What are you going to do? CJ had an okay game, 5 threes and 2 steals. And Anthony Simons, if Damian Lillard continues to miss time, I think we could pick him up. We could stream him. And Nasser Little got his 30 minutes. He actually played the best fantasy-wise on this team. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals and a block, and 3 threes. We could also look to pick him up. This game was a blowout, so Robert Covington's minutes is low. Next game, Little could just go back to playing 23, 24 minutes. But if you want to pick him up, see where things go, I don't hate it. In just 24 minutes, he's providing us some value, at least. Wow, they play a lot of guys. I didn't know, all these guys are. Cody Zeller is on Portland. I know Larry Nance Jr. is on the Blazers. He played 20 minutes, but let's not pick him up. Dennis Smith Jr. is on the Blazers. Tony Snell is on the Blazers. Ben McLemore, a lot of familiar names on the Blazers team. This was a blowout, so the minutes is a bit low. I would still hold on to Robert Covington, though. Hopefully they turn things around next game. The Denver Nuggets, Jokic early, easy night for him in 20 minutes, had almost a triple-double. I still think he's the number 1 guy. He should be better than Curry for the rest of the season if I have to bet my money. Jeff Green, I think we could pick him up for some until Michael Porter Jr. comes back. He's going to play close to 30 minutes. Give us some good rebounds, points, and some efficiency stats. Aaron Gordon, just 11 points and bad efficiency. Man, Aaron Gordon is not good. We still want to hold him, though. Austin Rivers, yeah. Another thing is Will Barton was going to play, but then he didn't play because he had some back issues. Is that right? Yeah, lower back tightness. Just like Michael Porter Jr. He was probably a sell high. It's never good, guys. Just any type of injuries like this, like lower back, even if a guy have ankle injury, they come back, they may not go as hard as they were going beginning of the season. So as a result, their stats may suffer, right? You're not gonna say, hey, this guy gets injured, so he might come back stronger. They can only go down, not go up. And Will Barton for the whole season is 43rd ranked player. It's a good opportunity to sell him. For a top 60 player even, I would. Monty Morris had a good game, actually. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. 15 points. This is one of the best games I see Monty Morris put up fantasy lines this season. But he remains to be just a streamer. Let's go to the last game of the night. This is a good one. Chicago Bulls beating the Clippers. Both teams are really, pretty hot coming into this game. I think the Clippers won 7 straight, and the Bulls 9-4. Also good. Alex Caruso played 38 minutes. He's a must roster. Until who comes back? Vucevic is out, and Javonte Green was starting. He went to the bench. Caruso 2 for 11, that's really bad. But the 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block, he's a must roster. Like if he tell me he's gonna play 35 plus minutes, he might be a top 50 player. He might be a top 50 player. If this is gonna be a moving forward, but I think he's probably better off coming off the bench. But he should still getting decent minutes. He's the 71st ranked player in the last 2 weeks, in 28 minutes. Majority of his value so far is just the steals, 2.4 steals. But if he can play 33 minutes, he could realistically move inside the top 50. Mainly due to his crazy steals, and he can average 5 assists even playing 33 minutes. He's a good passer. Tony Bradley, 23 minutes, had a steal and block. Like he could be a streamer until Vucevic comes back, although he hasn't really given us much value. I know this guy when he was on the Sixers last year, give the guy 25 to 30 minutes, he put up some huge lines. On this team, so far, not really. DeRozan continues to be a monster, 35 points. And crazy efficiencies, in mid-range, 12 for 16, 10 for 11. Remains to be a sell high. Any top 20, top 25, I don't think I would think too much. If I can get Jason Tatum back for DeRozan, I would still absolutely do it. Yeah. Zach Levine. Yeah, this is the problem with Zach Levine. He's going to give us a bunch of points and threes. 8 rebounds is nice, but 2 assists, no steals, no blocks. Yeah. Zach, for the whole season, he's moving down game by game. He's the 30th ranked player in 9 category leagues. I think 30 is probably where he is. Mainly due to him not having any defensive stats. If you compare him up with KD, just pound steals and blocks. Oh, you don't have to pound blocks actually, but it's never good to pound steals because it's very random steals. You always have a chance. You always have a chance in steal category, unless you're playing a team that's full of like Marcus Smart type of players. You always have a chance to win steals. Because the variance is too high. Like I would say higher than blocks, right? Okay. Let's look at the Clippers. Paul George struggled shooting the ball, but 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Yeah, Paul George is going to be, top 10 very comfortably. It's just, can he stay inside of that top 5? He is the 5th ranked player, but I think Harden eventually should move inside of top 5. To be honest, like Jimmy Butler, AD, like if I have to pick, I think AD and Jimmy Butler probably finishes better than Paul George. Once we get to the second half of the season, and I think also he's averaging 35 minutes. For a guy like that, it's not like Harden. You could give Harden 37 minutes and he barely tries on the court. Give Paul George 35 minutes, I think it's going to impact him, once we get to the second half. So I would still trade, if I can get a trade for him for AD, I probably would do it. Or Harden, I would do it. Batum plays great again. Just the 5 points, but hey, 7 rebounds, a steal, and a block. I think he's a must roster until Morris comes back, and we could look to sell him if we can. His rankings in category leagues is really good at the moment. Zubac, 23 minutes, had 4 blocks. That's great. 7 rebounds. He's not a must roster, but we could for sure stream him. Eric Bledsoe, great game, 21 points, no defensive stats. But like I said, I would hold him even if he struggles. If you want to sell him high for, do a 2-for-1 for a top 50 player, I don't see why not. And Reggie Jackson finally able to get some defensive stats. 13 points, took 17 shots, but collectively struggled as a team. Yep, and that's it, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.